And
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stamp and Chat with Gina K. I am Gina, and I am so excited to have you join me here this evening. We're going to have a lot of fun. I've got a great project ready for you guys. We're going to do a little vintage card making. And you know, we've been using the brand new Nature's Silhouettes Stamp TV kit and making lots of bright rainbow cards and bright ink blended cards. But we're going to use the kit tonight to do something very different, and I think you'll enjoy it. Tonight's topic is living in the now. And you know, don't dwell too much in the past and don't worry too much about the future. Concentrate your mind on what's happening today, because that's the only thing we really have, right? We only have control over today, and the only moment you know you have for sure is this one right now. Suffering doesn't hold on to you, but you hold on to suffering. You just have to imagine your past as heavy baggage, and it feels good to put that down once in a while. Now, putting away suffering in the past doesn't minimize the history or the people that were involved, but from time to time, carrying around the pain minimizes the present and the people you know now and who need you now. So it's time to live out your imagination and not relive your history. Well, tonight we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to be using two of the stamp sets for two different projects tonight, so we can switch over to the overhead, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to be using this silhouette stamp set, and I've been using this image a lot. I'm going to use it again tonight, and I'm also going to be using this stamp set. This is the Best Flowers, and this comes in this kit. If you haven't seen the kit yet, it's a pretty good kit. It's got 3 different stamp sets in it, lots of cardstock, a new stencil, and a die set. So we're going to use natural silhouettes. We're going to be using the Best Flowers for 2 different projects. Now, I'm also going to be using one of the background stamps from Gina K Designs, and this is the Elegant Script background stamp. We're going to use that tonight, and we're going to be using some plain old everyday copy paper. So I just cut 2 quarter sheets of copy paper. They might be a little thinner than that. I wasn't really worried too much about the measurements, but this is a good size to start with because we're actually going to do some tearing. Now I have this mat here and it's a little bit tacky, so I'm going to just pull the back piece off of this background stamp, and I'm going to stick it down onto my mat, and that will hold in place pretty well. Now, this will also hold in place right on a granite countertop, a shiny countertop, the glass mat, whatever you have, it clings really nicely to. And I don't see the point in needing a super huge block to do this kind of background, and I'll show you why. I think it's a lot easier to do it the way I'm going to show you. So I just have a piece of scrap paper here, and I'm going to start with a little bit of warm cocoa ink. I'm going to make 2 of these backgrounds at the same time because I'm going to need 2 of them for my card projects. Okay, so I'm just inking that up real well, making sure that I've got ink everywhere that's going to fit on my piece of copy paper. And then I'm going to lay that copy paper right on top. And I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper on top, and I'm just going to rub all over the surface. This is a great way to make sure that you get contact all over your background stamp and you don't get those shallow edges or those shallow centers when you're trying to use a jumbo acrylic block. Now, of course, if you have the Misty stamping tool, you can also use that. But I still think it's easy to stamp it with the stamp on its back. So you can see what that looks like. It looks like old style handwriting. And when I designed this stamp, I made sure that it didn't actually say anything. So this way it can be used for just about anything. I'm going to make 1 more of these so we can put this background stamp away.
what kind of mat is that?
This is actually just a piece of cushiony shelf liner. And I can show you what that looks like in just a second. So I'm going to do 1 more of these. Sounds like a car just went by or an airplane went overhead. So I'll show you that what I use. And I do this just for my videos because they don't have a shiny surface, this kind of mat, and it makes it easier to not get glare from lights, Okay, so there's my second one. So let me show you what this looks like. This is just a roll of shelf liner, and it's got a cushion. So you can see it's kind of a little bit spongy, which is nice for clear stamps. And I got this at Bed Bath & Beyond. It's called Easy Liner. So it sticks a little bit to my hard surface because I have a quartz countertop in here. I don't know if it would stick to a laminate, but I also purple taped it down because I really didn't want it to move. So you could always do that. All right. So now, before I go any further, I am going to get my tidy towel and just clean off this background stamp. There we go. And get rid of that. So I'm trying to be good about putting my backing back on here to keep that cling cushion nice and sticky. All right, so now let me get a piece of scrap paper in here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit of ink to the surface of this. So I'm going to use some craft ink for this, and I'm going to use a blending brush. And I'm not going to worry about blending this nice and smooth. I actually just want it to be a little bit blotchy. So for those of you that have trouble ink blending, this is a technique for you because you don't really have to worry about it. We're just kind of aging it. So I'm going to age the whole thing here, even though I'm going to cut it down. And of course, you can always start with less if you don't want to, be working on such a big area. I'm going to do the other one the same way, because I'm going to use both of these. And again, you can see I'm just kind of adding blotches of this ink here and there, not worrying about smooth blending. It's still going to look pretty smooth when it's all done, but the whole idea of this technique is to create an aged look. And Tom is here with me again tonight. He is helping me run cameras, and he's also taking note of your questions. So if you have any questions or anything, you can just shout them out, and he will get them to me, and I can answer them right here. So the next color I'm going to use is a little bit of sea glass. So I'm going to ink up this brush, and then I'm going to add a little bit of sea glass in here. I think this really makes the whole card, this color, just adding it in here. It's a little unexpected for a vintage kind of card, and I think that just really makes a difference. All right. So I'm doing two at a time just because it's easier to get this part of the card done. Boy, it was warm today here, and I was out looking at my garden. I know a lot of you helped me get started with my garden way back in March when I was starting some seeds, and I appreciate that. Today on my Facebook page, not on our group, but on my Facebook page, I shared how my garden is coming along. So, and my Facebook page is public, anybody can see it. I think I'm going to add a little bit more up in here. Okay, that should be good. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to crumple this paper up. Wrinkle it all up. Be a little careful too, because it's copy paper, and if you just kind of like crunch it, sometimes it can tear. But if you have a bigger piece than you need, that won't really matter too much. So I crumpled that one, and I'm going to crumple this one. Copy paper is great, and the cheaper and thinner it is, the better it works for this. Because you don't want to have too thick of a paper. It's hard to crumple it this way. Okay.
Are those blending brushes better than the foam?
I really like these blending brushes for really smooth ink blending because they're individual hairs. But I also do have a foam dauber here that I'm going to use in a little bit. So I would say they're both really good, but for different things. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the warm cocoa ink. And I'm just going to kind of rub that down to accent my wrinkles. Who would have thought I would want to accent my wrinkles? But I do. Tonight I do. Okay. And again, this is the warm cocoa ink. Now, again, you guys know that our ink goes on kind of dark, but once it dries up a lot lighter than that. And I'm going to take this dauber and I'm going to just dab it into that warm cocoa a little bit. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that here and there.
How do you keep your tidy towel moist?
Well, I just keep it in a little container on my workspace. I got the container from Make It by Marco, and the container I have has little holes in it. So it allows the tidy towel to breathe, but it will dry out overnight, and I just re-wet it in the morning with warm water. Okay, so for my first card, I'm going to start to tear this paper now. And I'm tearing toward the front. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that I get that rough edge, that you can see the edge. See, on the back, you really can't see the edge, but here you can start to see the white. And I want that. And I'm not doing a great job of staying real even. In fact, I don't want it to be too even. So if it starts to look too even, I'm actually going to force it to not look that even. Okay. And then I'm going to look at the measurement here. And if I have to tear a little more off, I will. I'm not super worried about it. And that's the beauty of this, is that the measurements come as you make the card. It's not like you know ahead of time what the measurement is going to be. Okay. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to grab my paper cutter here, and I'm going to see about how big that is. So that's about 3.5 inches by about 5 inches. I'm going to actually take a little bit more off of this end because I want it to be just a little smaller. I want it to be a little closer to the 5-inch mark. So there we go. That's good. So now I'm going to cut a piece of ivory cardstock. Tear this off. I don't want it to look too even, but I think that might just get in the way. Okay. Now I'm going to cut a piece of ivory cardstock. And you guys have asked me a lot to use ivory, so I'm going to use some ivory tonight. And I'm going to cut this at 5 inches. Looks like it is at 5 inches by, let's see, do I want 5 inches? Yeah. No, I want 4 3/4 of an inch. And then I want it to be about 3.5 inches. And I might have to tear just a little bit more. So 4 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And then you can make that fit. So see how that is just a little bit too wide? I'm going to go back down this side again and take a little bit more of that off. And the great thing about it is it doesn't have to be even, so it's not. And then I'll take a little bit more off here.
Are there any ink cube colors that are not in the sets?
Yeah, there are. A couple of our grays, the Soft Stone and Stormy Sky, and our white and ivory pigment ink. And I'm not sure if there are any others. Well, there probably are a couple of others. Our amalgam inks are not. So if you go onto our website, you can see our full set. We have a product called the full set of ink pads. You can look at that, and then you can compare it to our different collections. You can also contact customer service because I'm pretty sure she probably has a list available of what's not in the Incube sets. Okay, so I'm using some warm cocoa now, and I'm going to darken the edges of this, almost like I was making like burnt paper. And this is burnt paper without the risk of burning your house down. Actually, sometimes when I stamp, I love candles, and I have candles on my workspace, and I'll just toss paper around. And honestly, I'm so scared that one day I'm just going to set my craft room right on fire. Not be a good thing. Okay, so you can see this is really getting rustic and aged. Okay, looking good. Let's get a little more on there. Okay. So now I'm going to put this onto my piece of cardstock. And I'm going to do that with a little tape. So you have to be a little bit careful because this is pretty wet now since it's so thin. So you just want to be careful with your tape runner. If you use a liquid glue, you don't need very much of our Connect glue, just a tiny little bit. Goes a long way. And then I'm going to place that down, and I'm going to kind of push on the center and then work my way up to try to not have wrinkles in it because it'll make it easier to stamp on. Okay, and then if there's any little parts sticking up, you can just get a little tape under there and press that down. Okay, so that is my first layer. Now for this piece, I'm going to trim this one down. I'll kind of use this as a guide because I want to be close to the same size. So I'm going to just tear that. This one I could probably make 2 out of because I'm going to tear this down and just have it like off to the one side. All right. And we'll take that right about there. It's kind of nice to have a guide. Once you make one, you kind of have a nice guide for your next one. Okay. All right. So it looks a little more even on this side. Should I get in there and make it jagged? Sure, why not? All right, there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to use this warm cocoa ink around the outside. This is a really nice style card to do for sympathy card. And also, depending on the images that you use, it's kind of a nice masculine look too. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to wipe my hand again with my tidy towel because I am getting inky, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to cut another piece of cardstock down. So let me get my paper cutter here. And I'm going to look at this. This looks like it's about maybe 2.5 inches. So I'll go 2.5 inches. Let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. I'll be able to just tear those little areas off. And then I'll go to 4 3/4 inches again for this. And then I can trim it a little bit more. So I love doing this technique with the ivory cardstock. I think that the white might be a little bit too stark for this. And the ivory is just soft and nice. So that looks pretty good. I'll go down this side since I'm already over here. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so back to edging again. I got to edge what I just tore off, where I just tore off. And this is a very different style from what I've been doing lately, but it feels really good to play with some different styles of cards. You start to feel sometimes like all the cards you're making are the same, and I kind of like mixing it up and having that little bit of a different look. Okay, so what did you call this card, Tom? You're looking at it like a sea scroll or something.
Oh, yeah, what do they call that?
Kind of has that old map feel. Dead Sea Scroll, yeah. All right, so
Someone asked when we're going to have available the white lettering card weight, and I thought that was.
I think that may have just arrived in our warehouse today, I think. So if that arrived today, they will be putting that back in stock tomorrow. Sometimes if it gets too low, we use some of that to print our inserts on too, so that everything matches nice. So if you ever throw away the inserts, you can actually stamp on them. You don't have to throw them away. Okay, so we're gonna go with those 2 pieces for now. And then if you want, you can, add a little bit more aging in there if you want.
Somebody asked about ironing it out or running it through the laminator. Would that wreck anything?
I don't think it would wreck anything, but I honestly don't think you need to do that. If you just start pressing in the middle and work your way out, I think it should be fine. But it definitely won't ruin anything. All right, so now I'm going to cut some craft cardstock to layer these. I'm going to do some heavy duty layering too. So this is, again, a little bit different than my usual cards lately, but it's so fun. So I'm going to make this 3 5/8 of an inch. And then it was 4 3/4 of an inch this way. So I'm going to go up another 1/8 of an inch. Let's see how that looks. So this is craft cardstock. That looks good together. And this one, I've got to measure it again. All right, 2.5 by 4 3/4. So that means I'm going to do 2 5/8 by 4 7/8. There we go. And if you do these measurements a lot, you can always take a little Sharpie and just add a Sharpie to the spots, like a little Sharpie dot. Maybe the 2 measurements that you do for one size card could be a red Sharpie dot, and then the other ones could be a blue Sharpie dot. And if you ever want to take them off, then you just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and the Sharpie will come right off. Okay, so that is going to go here like that. I'm actually going to wait on that though. I'm going to put this on later. I'm going to put the bases on later. So let me get the MISTI, because I am going to stamp on both of these. So my first one here, I'm going to stamp. It's hard to tell with this printing. That's kind of what I like about it. It doesn't even matter if it's upside down or not. I'm going to stamp one of the flowers from the Best Flowers. I'm going to stamp that right onto that paper. And I'm going to make it fit. Somehow I'm going to make it fit. Just like that. So my little stem will just go to the edge. That's going to be close. Okay. So we'll do that. And for this, I'm going to use some of the charcoal brown. So I'm not using any black cardstock with this, but the charcoal brown, well, all of our dye inks will work with Copic markers because I am going to color this flower just a little bit. So this is the charcoal brown. The perfect brown for your collection if you want something that's close to black, but you want it to be warm. All right, let me just move this over just a tiny hair. Okay. Now let me get a little piece of cardstock here so I can just rub that on. This is also a really fun technique if you guys like to do art journaling. Definitely something that will look great in an art journal. Okay, so now you can see the flowers on there and the leaves are on there. I'm going to just put that aside for a second. And now I'm going to get another piece of ivory cardstock and I'm going to stamp this a second time. I'm not worrying about the stem very much though, because I'm going to do a little quick fussy cutting with this. There we go. So you can see how that's almost black. It's nice and dark, but certainly not too dark. Not black. Okay. So I'm going to clean this stamp. And I'm going to put this back on my stamp sheet. And we are done with this stamp set now. Now for my other one, I'm going to stamp directly on here. I think I like it better this way. It's really what you like. Go ahead.
Why do you rub with cardstock?
Well, because my hand has lotion on it, and so it's like it kind of drags. But when I put a piece of cardstock over there, it just slides so easily. You can also do that with a paper towel or with a little fabric cloth. Sometimes I use my little microfiber cloth here, and it just makes it easier to get good pressure without it kind of dragging. All right, so I'm going to put this right up here. And that's this stamp right here. Now I could stamp this one in black, but I think I'm going to try the charcoal brown. Because we want this. This is the stamp set from the new Nature's Touch card kit. And the stamp set is called Natural Silhouettes. It's only available in the kit right now. And we just got confirmation that our dies have shipped, which is great. And we're just waiting for our stamps and the stencils to get here. Everything is on its way, should be here soon, and we'll be able to put these kits back in stock. So if you want one, make sure you go over and click the notify me button. This way you'll get notified. And we're going to let all the people who click the notify me button have first crack at it before we make an announcement. All right, so now again, I'm going to use the cardstock. And that just really gives me good pressure. Oh, that's so pretty. Isn't that pretty? I love that. Love it. Okay. And then before I move this stamp, I'm going to add a greeting to this. I'm going to add that greeting right over here on the side. I'm going to use the With Sympathy. I do have to get a sympathy card out in the mail, so this will be a lovely sympathy card.
Hell yeah. Hey, where's your wedding ring?
Oh, I just said to Tom, he said, we have a minute and a half. And I went, oh no, I don't have my wedding ring. I took it off. Upstairs, I took a quick shower and I took it off so I could put lotion on, and I forgot to put it back on. So we're still together, but I left it up there. Okay. So there is that With Sympathy greeting on there. All right, so we're going to turn this panel into a card. I'm going to put that aside for a minute. And see, I can count on you guys to notice things and to keep me on track. I love that. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of warm cocoa onto that. Just a little bit. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to add a little bit of craft onto that. So I just want to, get a little bit of that same aged look. I'm not going to do it all over, just a little bit, just to soften it. And then I'm going to use a couple of Copic markers. So I've got BG10 and I've got G00. I'm going to start with BG10 and see what that looks like. And I'm just straight ahead coloring this, and I'm not worried about any blending or anything like that. Just getting that color on there. And if I want a little bit more brown, I'll just do that. Definitely want it to look aged. And the reason why I'm doing this one is because the other one has all the text going through it and all the wrinkles and the brown stuff. And I want you to be able to see these images really well. So I'm going to paper piece on top so that the stems and everything are where they should be on the card, but then these flowers are going to look bright and vibrant.
Did we go camping again?
No, we didn't. Well, we tried. We tried to go camping, and we only made it one night this time because the campsite that we went to was really, really unlevel. And we just have a tiny little RV, so we don't have one of those big setups where it's got, the sticks that come down for leveling. Now I'm going to use a little G00. So it felt like a fun house. And I'm just adding this toward the bottom of these petals.
They're called leveling jacks.
Is that what they're called? We don't have those.
Sticks.
Leveling sticks.
Sticks.
Wrong. So I'm just doing some just little brush strokes down near the bottoms of these petals. As you can see, I'm also not even worried about going outside of the lines. I'm gonna add a little bit more dark in here. Okay, so I can zoom in a little bit on that so you can see this just a hair closer. There we go. See what that looks like? Okay, go back out a little bit. Ooh, that's too far. Okay, there we go. So now let me cut these. So I'm gonna use the Tim Holtz scissors. These are my good pair. I have a sticky pair too that I cut a lot of foam and tape things with, but I'm gonna use my good pair and I'm gonna fussy cut. Now I'm not gonna worry about it being absolutely perfect. That is one thing you don't have to worry about. If there's a little bit of ivory showing, because I'm gonna age the edges of this flower anyway. So this is a pretty easy flower to cut out. And, you know, I could have used one of the flowers from the kit that has dies and stuff, but I'm still gonna get a pretty big edge compared to being able to fussy cut. Plus, if I'm making a vintage card, I need to do it in vintage style. And this is the way we used to do it before there was even things that could cut out our die shapes. Back in the day, we called it fussy cutting. I've seen people, like, they hear it and they don't know what they hear and they call it fuzzy cutting, but it's not fuzzy cutting. It's fussy cutting, like you're being very fussy and detailed. And so,
is that like hissy fitting?
No, it's not like hissy fitting. Although sometimes I remember, you know, way back in the day, if we had to fussy cut enough, we would throw a hissy fit. Nothing like dies to make that job easier. That changed everything. But fussy cutting. And you can see it's not that hard. I'm just kind of going around. And when I fussy cut, I don't move the scissors as much. I use my other hand and I actually move the paper, and that makes it a little bit easier. All right, so get that out of there. Just a little bit more. Now, if there's any ivory edges showing, I will take care of that with my little sponge dauber. It's another reason I just can't give up my sponge daubers, because they seem to be so good for edging. Okay, so I'm going to take the sponge dauber and I'm just going to go around the edges. And that'll actually just darken the edges and make it look a little bit more vintage. And it'll hide all my mistakes. All right, so there's one flower. Now I'm going to cut these leaves out, and I'm not going to try to get in there and do it all in one piece. I'm just going to cut the leaves out separately. That's all I need to do. And that'll be pretty easy to do. So I hope you guys had a good day today. I had a good day. One kind of exciting thing that I did, I wrapped it up last night, very late last night, put the finishing touches on a few new stamp sets and a new kit that will be coming out. But I am just loving this kit. This kit has been so much fun already. I can't believe how many cards I've made with it already. This is a good one. And I like everything in it. I like all the stamp sets in it. Sometimes, you know, you have a favorite. The kits are such a good value too, because, you know, they've got 2 6x8 sets in there, which normally retail for $23.95. And then it's got a 4x6 stamp set, which retails for $19.95. It's got a die set. It's got cardstock. It's got a stencil. So you get the whole thing for $59.95. That's a very good deal. You get a lot of stuff. And then, you know, even if you think there's a set in there that you don't like, then all of a sudden you're going to see a card by one of our design team and you're going to think, oh, I should have gotten that. So might as well get it at the deal price. And it is coming back, I promise. Boy, I'm really making a mess. I've got misty magnets strewn about. Okay. Oh, it got real quiet. So the ivory cardstock that we have in our collection, when you color the ivory with Copic markers, you will get a little bleed through. But when you use our white cardstock, if you like doing single layer cards, our white cardstock is really good for that because it is a no bleed cardstock. I'm going to just edge that. And then we also have our Artist Choice cardstock, which is great for Copic coloring and great for colored pencils. It's got a little bit more tooth. And I know some of the Copic artists like the bleed. They want the Copic markers to bleed through. They feel like they get better blends that way. So we have something for everyone. So if you've never tried these Tim Holtz scissors, the grab that you get from that little serrated edge really makes it easy to cut these images out. Love it. So I would like to know, and you can just say yes or no, and Tom can kind of keep track. Do you guys like enamel pins? Because we have a Gina K Designs enamel pin that we got for Creativation last year, and then we didn't take it to Creativation. So I'm thinking of putting them up on the website. You guys know I collect enamel pins from all my favorite companies, and so we have this cute little pin, and yes, it's a wreath. Can you believe it? It's a little Gina K Designs wreath. So we're thinking about putting those on our site, maybe for our next release. Okay, we have a limited quantity though.
Kit's about 2 weeks out.
Kits are about 2 weeks out. Yeah, I know the dies shipped, and that usually takes longer. But I did talk to our stamp manufacturer today, and they've had a little bit of turnover there. So with COVID, it's been hard for them to get all their staff in because some of their people are a little more at risk, and so they're doing their best to get a rush going for us. So once we get that all in, we will be ready. I think no more than 2 weeks for at least the first wave. Okay. All right. So now I have those cut out, and I'm going to assemble the first card. So the first card, let me grab my paper cutter here. I'm going to put these little pieces over here. The first card, I'm going to use some charcoal brown to layer this piece. So of course I can't remember. Okay, 2.5 by 4 3/4, 2.5. So this is going to go to 2 5/8 to 4 7/8. Does that sound right? Hey, I have cut things wrong many times during a live. Okay, that looks pretty good. That's a nice layer there. So I'm going to put these layers together. I'm down to my last tape refill. That is so much scarier than being out of toilet paper. I can't even tell you for a crafter. And I'm going to cut that little bit off the bottom there because it still looks a little long. Paper towels, toilet paper, and tape. They're like the 3 things that especially in the winter, I just like to make sure I have enough of those 3 things. And potato chips. I do like potato chips. Okay, so now I need a card base. So I'm going to use an ivory card base here. Oh, you know what? I wanted to put this. I'm going to take this off. I am going to save this because I already cut this. And I wanted to double layer this. So I'm going to double layer it.
How about cardstock to match Rena's ink?
We do not have, our mill does not have the capacity to do neon ink, neon cardstock. However, you can get a pretty close look just by running the ink pad around the perimeter. All right, so this is going to 2, I gotta check this again. So at this time, we're saying no, unless we can find a different mill. So this is gonna go to 2 3/4 of an inch. I should ask Rena to do a video for you on how to do that. Oh, and Rena has a new video up. I don't know if you guys saw it. This is going to go to 5. But it's really cool. When I first saw her cards, I thought she did the Joseph's coat technique, and that's an old technique from a long time ago. I have videos on that on my YouTube channel. But it was so perfect, looked so amazing. So I said to her, how did you get it to look that perfect? And she said, you're going to have to watch my video. And I did, and it is pretty brilliant. All right, and you can find her at Gina K Designs, or Rena Krupski on YouTube. So I like that double layer, the craft and then that charcoal brown. Looks really nice together. Love that. Okay, and now I'm gonna get my little score buddy here and score this piece of ivory cardstock. This is cut 11 inches long by 4 1/4 inches, and I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 inches. Just a typical A2 card. And then I'm gonna use the back of my tool there to flatten that out. Our ivory comes in 120 pound and 80 pound, just like our white. All right, and then that's just going to go on the side there. So I'm going to put that on like that. And now I'm going to stamp the greeting, but I'm going to do it weird. I'm going to do it up the side. And we do have vertical greetings in our collection, but I want to use this one. So I'm just going to stamp it right up the side of the card. I'm a little sweaty here, so everything's sticking to me. So let's see. Should I use the Misty or should I be brave? I think I will not be brave. And I think I will use the Misty. I'm shedding too. Okay, let me flip it around this way. I know you guys always tell me that I use the Misty backwards because I like it to open like a book, which is upside down. You're supposed to use your Misty this way and open it this way. Not going to do it. All right, I'll do it right now. I'll try. So let's see here. I want to put my thinking of you right here. So it's just going to go up the side of the card like that. It's different, I know, but it's okay. I'm going to be different. It's vintage, so it can be weird and different. I'm going to use the charcoal brown for this. And I'm going to stamp it.
Playing with fire here.
Me? I think I'll stamp it a second time. Just add a little bit more ink. There we go. Okay, looks good. So now let me get that out of the way. All right. So now I'm going to paper piece my flowers on there. Oh yeah. See how that just pops now? So this one I think I will pop up with some foam. Let me glue the leaves down first. They're a little hard to see. Let's see, does this one go there? Yep. So I'm going to tape them directly on to the card. It would be very, very difficult to strategically not get that background where you don't want it. It'd be impossible. But I love this. It's really pretty. Fun. I really like it because it's fun and it's different. Now, for those of you who are new to Gina K Designs, we have a Facebook group that is really fun. It's called Gina K Designs and Stamp TV Friends. Let's see how that looks. And you could just go over to Facebook and just type that in your search on Facebook, Gina K Designs and Stamp TV Friends, and our group will come up. We would love to have you in our group. It's a really fun group. It's a really supportive group. I'm using a little bit of the Gina K Designs foam tape for this. It's a really supportive group. So whether you're a new stamper or you're an experienced stamper, you're going to get a lot of love over there when you share your projects. And I always share my finished card pictures over there because it's really easy to see them. It's not always easy to see in live stream. So I'll be sharing these over there tonight. Okay, does that look right? That looks pretty good. Okay, so there's the flower on there. And I think I'll put a little twine on there. So I have some old baker's twine here. I'm just going to cut a little bit of that. I'm going to use the better scissors for that. That's probably way more than I need. But I'm going to do a triple loop here. I'm going to go around my finger. So if you've never seen me do this before, I'm going to hold the tail with my thumb and my pinky. And I'm going to wrap this around my 2 fingers 3 times. So we get, this is the first loop. Here's the second loop. There's the third loop. Okay, so now I'm going to drop that down in between. Make sure you can see that. I'm dropping it down in between so that it comes out the other side. And then I've got this little loop right here. And I'm going to go over. It's harder to do with twine. Over the river and back through the woods. And I'm going to pull that nice and tight. Now I have a video on this. It's called 5 Ways to Make Bows, or Easy Ways to Make Bows. Just type that in and then Gina K, and you will find a video that will show you this and lots of other ways to make bows, cheater's bows, easy ways to make bows that look good. So that is that. Now let's see here. I'm gonna see how cute that is. It's just cute. And then I'm gonna cut the tails. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of sea glass ink to it, just so it's not so white. A little bit of that. I don't know if you're gonna see that. Maybe I'll go with the craft. I'll do the craft. It just makes it a little bit warmer. See, it's not quite as stark white as it was before. I don't know if you can see the difference there, but it's just warmed it up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to apply that right where those 2 stems meet. I'm just going to put it right there so it looks like it's tied on. Let me see if I have a zot. I think I do. I do. So ThermoWeb makes these really cool things called zots. And these are the small ones. And it comes on a roll. They also have singles too, but it comes on a roll. And I know you're not going to be able to see it, but that is a little zot right there. Maybe you can see it. It's just a little glue dot is what it is. And I'm going to press onto it and then pick up that zot.
What kind of glue would you recommend for watercolor paper?
Glue? Well, I really like our Connect glue for all kinds of cardstock. I think it works really, really well. And I have had good success with gluing watercolor paper with it. All right. So there is that little bow. And that's that finished card. All right. I like it. And I like the greeting on an angle. It's just graphic and cool, like a different graphic style. And then the tent style card, so you can sign in there. So there's the first one, first vintage card of the evening. So let's do the other one. Let me clean up my zots here. Now I need to cut another piece of charcoal brown cardstock. And I made a mistake with my other piece, so I gotta run way over here and get another piece of cardstock. All right, so this one, I'm gonna measure it. Now I have the craft piece that I cut, so that's gonna go on top of that. And so this one is gonna be 1/8 of an inch bigger than this. So here I'm at 3 5/8, so I'm gonna go to 3 1/4. It's a big piece of cardstock here. No, not 3 1/4, 3 3/4. So we'll just check that. Yep, that looks good. That's gonna give me a good layer. And then this way it's at 4 7/8, so I wanna cut it at 5 inches. That was kind of a weird way to cut a whole piece of cardstock. I should have cut it in half first, but I'll be using these for different things, so it'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to start by layering this to here.
How do you not get the ink on the back of your card? You laid it right where you inked the bow.
Dumb luck. I have ink pretty much everywhere most of the time. I take a little bit of extra time to clean my hands with the tidy towel whenever I'm doing my lives because, you know, you just get ink everywhere. But yeah, it's dumb luck. I'm just cutting that little thin thread off there. I don't even know if you can see it. That is probably over the top to have to do that. And then this will be perfect for here. So craft on charcoal brown. Charcoal brown is just, oh, I love it. I love this color.
Was there a video on how to cut down an existing envelope to make it fit a smaller card?
I actually do have a video. On my YouTube channel, I have a lot of videos where I actually cut down an envelope, an A2 envelope, to make a square card. I'll try to find one of those videos. And if not, I will. If I can't find it, I'll just do it in one of my lives when I do the wreath builder. But I do that a lot. And yeah, I definitely have it in several videos. Okay, so this I'm scoring at 5 1/2. If you go into our Facebook group and ask that question, I bet 5 people will post the video for you. I know our moderators know where a lot of those videos are because we get asked that question a lot. So I don't want to just leave you hanging. Definitely go over into the group and ask that question, and they will be happy to look up that link for you. Because I do it in another video, so it's not like a video that says how to make a small card. It's a video where I make a square card. Oh, I love that one. Okay, so there is that one. 2 vintage cards. Let me get the other one. Yeah, I can zoom in. Let me put them side by side here and clean up all the clutter. And then I will zoom in a bit. Let's see here. There we go. That is really zoomed. But if you're watching on your big screen, these cards are about 5 feet by 8 feet. All right, so there's my 2 vintage style cards for the evening. That was fun. Well, we certainly don't have enough time to make a whole other card, so I think I'm going to leave you with a final thought, a quote for the night. So if you want to switch over to my face. You know, I wore a top tonight that kind of has a vintage feel to it. Don't you think I kind of match my look? I'm such a weirdo. All right, so tonight we talked a little bit about living in the moment, and I found a beautiful quote by Mother Theresa. It is such a beautiful quote. But before I say it, I want to remind you again, hop over, join our Facebook group, Gina K Designs and Stamp TV Friends. If you're looking to shop, you can visit our store at ginakdesigns.com, and you can find some of the things that we used tonight, but if you're looking for the kit, definitely go over there and click that notify me button. This way, you're the first one to be notified when the kit comes back in stock. So Mother Teresa said it perfectly about living in the moment. She said, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow hasn't come yet. We only have today. So let us begin. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will see you again next Monday for another Mix It Up Monday video. In the meantime, you stay safe out there. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.